I came home early because the rain shut down the whole job site. Concrete doesn't set in a thunderstorm, and I wasn't about to stand around getting soaked for $20 an hour. The house was too quiet when I walked in, and I could smell lavender candles burning. Sonia never lit those unless she was trying to impress someone. I stepped past the living room, heading for the kitchen, when I heard her voice. She was on the phone, soft and sugar-coated like she was talking to a puppy. He doesn't suspect anything. No, babe. Our baby's gonna have the sweetest little nose, just like yours. I stopped dead at the doorway. My tool belt hit the floor with a clatter. She turned, phone still to her ear. I watched her face drain of color. "Who's Craig?" I asked. My voice came out low and steady, which surprised me. Inside, I felt like a fuse had already lit. She hung up. No apology. No panic. Just stared at me and said, "You weren't supposed to be home." "Who's Craig?" She crossed her arms. "Someone who listens. Someone who doesn't shut down every time I try to talk. Someone who actually sees me." I blinked. "And he got you pregnant." She didn't deny it. I stood there for a second, staring at the woman I'd spent 33 years with, wondering if this was some nightmare I'd wake up from. But no, she wasn't crying. She wasn't chasing me down. She just stood there waiting for me to be the bad guy. "Was it going on before I left the business to you?" Her lip curled. "You were already halfway gone." I just stopped pretending. I nodded once, walked upstairs, threw a few clothes in my old duffel, grabbed my cash stash, and walked right out. Didn't slam a door. Didn't leave a note. That was 5 years ago. I drove straight through the night and halfway into the next, until I found a beat-up foreclosure cabin near Salmon, Idaho. Signed the paperwork under my mother's maiden name. Paid cash. No credit cards. No internet. Just trees, tools, and silence. I rebuilt the place with my own hands. Cut wood in the winter, laid fence in the summer, picked up cash-only gigs fixing barns and porches. Didn't talk to anyone about the past. Didn't explain myself. Let Sonia keep the house, the money, even the business. Figured she could raise Craig's kid with my leftovers if that's what she wanted. I didn't tell my daughters goodbye. I figured they'd heard her version already. For 5 years, nobody came looking. Then one Thursday afternoon, I saw dust kicking up on the gravel road. Car was coming. The car rolled up slow, tires crunching on my gravel like they didn't want to get dirty. Black Lexus, city plates. I set my mug down and stood from the porch rail, wiping sawdust off my jeans. I was working on a neighbor's chicken coop roof that morning. Didn't bother changing. Driver's door opened first. Sonia stepped out like she was getting ready for court. Cream blazer, matching heels, makeup done up to erase 10 years of damage. I hadn't seen her since the day I left, but the smug tilt of her chin, that hadn't aged a second. Then the passenger door opened. Curtis Renner. I'd recognize the type anywhere. Slicked back gray hair, leather briefcase, custom-tailored attitude. He walked up like he owned the land under his shoes. "Mr. Riker, you've been a hard man to find." "Not that hard," I said. My hand rested on the hammer sitting on the railing. Not threatening, just there. Sonia didn't say a word. Just stood back with her arms crossed and her eyes bouncing over the cabin like she was judging it for termites. Curtis cleared his throat. "Let's get to it. My client, Mrs. Sonia Riker, is filing claims of financial abandonment, emotional damage, and unlawful seizure of joint marital assets." I blinked. "You're serious?" "She's seeking restitution in the amount of $175,000. The courts may also explore backdated spousal support and damages." I looked over at Sonia. "You cheated. Lied about a kid being mine." I walked away. She spoke for the first time then. "You abandoned your family, Dave. Without a word. You left everything." Curtis cut in. "Which is why this won't be a hard case to prove. You disappeared to avoid responsibility. You left your daughters, your business, and this very home we have documents showing once belonged jointly to both of you. That house was in her name after the sale." I walked away from the business clean. Curtis flipped open a folder. "Not according to this." He pulled out papers with a county seal, property transfer forms, sale documents, and a police report. Filed 5 years ago, he said, tapping the page. Claiming mental instability. Suicidal statements. Officers searched for you for weeks before closing the file. I didn't say a word. He closed the folder with a soft snap. We're offering a private resolution. Settle this quietly. Pay the amount. Or in 48 hours we go public. With the police report, with the financial trail, with your daughter's statements. Sonia smirked then. Just a tiny pull of the corner of her mouth, like the devil peeking out. You're bluffing, I said, even though I knew she wasn't. Curtis handed me a card. You've got 48 hours. After that, this becomes a matter of public record. And trust me, Mr. Riker, rural peace won't shield you from legal trouble. They turned back toward the car. Sonia didn't even glance behind her. As they drove off, I looked across the field. Hank was on his porch, coffee mug in one hand, binoculars still dangling around his neck. Probably spotted the car half a mile out. He didn't wave, didn't ask, just nodded once. Slow and steady. I picked up the business card and stared at the name. Curtis Renner, ESQ. Family Law, Asset Recovery, Mediation and Litigation. Then I crushed it in my fist and walked back inside. I didn't sleep that night, barely even sat down. By sunrise, I'd already thrown a bag in the truck and hit the road. Didn't tell Hank, didn't write a note, just took off down the mountain highway like my boots were on fire. 3 hours later, I pulled into a dusty strip of buildings on the edge of Bonner's Ferry. Grocery store, 2 bars, a bait shop, and one sign with peeling paint that read, Emerson Legal Aid and Mediation. I stepped inside. Smelled like old coffee and printer paper. Receptionist barely looked up. Walk in. Yeah. Name. David Riker. She tapped some keys, then waved me toward a door marked Consultation Room 1. Carla Emerson was already in there, maybe late 30s. Hair tied back, sleeves rolled, boots up on the corner of her desk like she hadn't bothered pretending she gave a damn about impressing clients. She didn't shake my hand, just pointed. Sit. Talk. So I did. Laid it out in order. Sonia, the affair, the fake report, the lawyer, the money demands. Told her I had no internet, no phone records, no witnesses, no trail. She leaned back in her chair, chewing the inside of her cheek. So you ghosted for 5 years. She told me to leave. I did. Did you sign anything before you left? No. You got proof you didn't? I didn't answer. She sighed and spun her monitor around. Here's what you're up against. She has forged documents that look real. She's got public records, a police report, and a paper trail that makes you look like a nut who bailed to avoid child support. The kid's not mine. Can you prove that? I stared at the wall. She snapped her fingers. Hey, you want to win or not? There was a paternity test before I left. Where is it? No idea. She cursed under her breath. Okay, let's back up. Your business? Who bought you out? Micah Harper. He's in Kansas. Did you sign that sale over to him? In person. No lawyers. Just cash and a notarized form. She scribbled notes. He might still have copies. If we can get those, we can start unraveling the financial claims. Anyone else who could speak to your mental state back then? I laughed once. Besides the woman who lied to the cops? No. All right. Step 1. Get Micah on the phone. Step 2. Find any record of that paternity test. Step 3. Stop feeling sorry for yourself and start fighting back. Got it. I stared at her. You always this warm with your clients? She gave a dry smile. Only the ones who show up with nothing but a hammer and a story. I walked out to the parking lot and sat on the tailgate for a long minute before pulling out my phone. Still had Micah's number on an old business card in my wallet. Took me a few tries to dial it. He answered on the 3rd ring. Hello, Micah. It's Dave. Pause. Then, well damn. You still breathing? Barely. I thought you fell off the grid. I did. Another pause. What's going on? I need your help. Remember when I sold you the business? You still got the paperwork. He whistled. I might. Why? My ex is suing me. Says I stole money and ran. She's claiming we never did the sale. That's bull. You handed me every damn file in your truck bed. You think you still have any of it? I'll check. Gimme a day or two. Thanks. We hung up. I climbed into the truck, started the engine, and sat there staring at the dashboard. Wind kicked dust off the road like it didn't care who it hit. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. We want the money you hid. No name, but I knew that tone. Cold, clipped, exact. Lindsay, my oldest. The last time I saw her, she was 25, pacing the kitchen in a college hoodie, trying to talk Sonia into therapy. Now she sounded like a stranger. I stared at the screen for a while, thumb hovering over the reply button. Didn't type a damn thing. Just dropped the phone on the seat, put the truck in drive, and headed back toward the cabin. I was splitting logs behind the cabin when the call came in. My phone buzzed in my back pocket, and when I saw Micah's name, I dropped the axe straight into the stump and answered. His voice came in shaky. Dave, you're not gonna like this. Hit me. I found everything. The original buyout packet. You remember that binder you gave me? Yeah. Green folder. I wrote the sale date in Sharpie on the cover. I've got it right here in front of me. Your signatures on all 3 pages. Notarized, dated, and clean. He paused. But that's not what your ex filed. I gripped the phone tighter. What do you mean? She filed something completely different with the county. New forms, new signature. Yours, but not really. I had my office manager compare them. It's not the same handwriting. So she forged it. Looks like it. Hell, even the business valuation is jacked up. Says I bought it for half what I actually paid. Like she was trying to make it look like you sold it under the table to hide funds. I wiped sweat from my forehead. My throat felt tight. That ain't all, is it? Micah sighed. No. I dug into some old account records, too. You remember that IRA you left sitting at Allied Mutual? The one you never moved? Yeah. What about it? She drained it. Days after you disappeared. Transferred the funds straight into a personal joint account. Hers and a guy named Craig. I sat down on the porch step, staring out at the pines. That's the guy she cheated with. The baby daddy. She moved fast, Dave. Like she already knew you weren't coming back. Because she filed that damn report, I said. Said I was suicidal. Micah was quiet for a second. I didn't believe it, you know? Not really. But the cops showed up asking about you. Said they were worried. Asked if you'd been acting unstable. I told him you'd seemed tired, stressed, maybe a little off. Figured I was helping. You gave her the ammo. I didn't know she was loading the gun. Neither of us said anything for a while. Just silence and static. I'm sorry, he said finally. If I'd asked more questions, maybe? Stop. She played everybody. That's what she does. I'll testify. Whatever you need. Documents, emails, hell. I'll fly out there if it comes to it. You sure? Damn right I'm sure. You were a good partner. Built that shop from nothing. You didn't deserve any of this. I felt something twist in my gut. Grief, maybe, or just anger that had been sitting cold too long. Thanks, Micah. I'll scan everything and send it tonight. If your lawyer wants originals, I'll overnight him. Do it. We hung up. I sat there for a while, phone still in my hand, staring at the trees like they might tell me what the hell to do next. I didn't feel relieved. I felt exposed, like someone had reached into my chest and yanked out 5 years of peace. I stood up, grabbed the axe and slammed it through another log. Then I went inside, opened the drawer where I kept Carla's card, and dialed. When she picked up, I said 3 words. I've got proof. The next morning, I was out back stacking lumber when I heard tires crunching slow over gravel. Again, I wiped my hands on my jeans and came around the side of the cabin. It wasn't a Lexus this time, just a clean silver Buick with a county fair bumper sticker and Kansas plates. Door creaked open and out stepped a gray-haired woman in a pressed blouse and slacks like she was headed to Sunday service. She walked up with a steady, polite smile, and a big manila envelope hugged to her chest. "You're David Riker?" "Yeah," I said, cautious. "Can I help you?" She held out her hand. "Carol Danner. I used to work the front desk at Everwood Senior Center, back in Salina." I squinted. "That where Sonia volunteered?" "More like hung around trying to network with local donors," she said, with a dry little chuckle. "I was there the last 6 years before I retired." She held the envelope out to me. "I heard through a few mutuals that Sonia's stirring up trouble again. Thought it was time I stopped sitting on this." I took the envelope, opened the flap, and slid the photos into my hand. First one. Sonia and Craig, standing close at a wine and cheese fundraiser. His hand was on her lower back. She was looking up at him like he built the damn moon. Second photo. Same man, same woman, different year. Arms around each other at a Christmas party. She was wearing the same red coat I bought her for our 20th anniversary. Third one. Craig and Sonia in a booth at Applebee's, holding hands across the table. The date scribbled on the back said April 2017, 7 months before I walked. I swallowed. "How long have you had these?" "Long enough," she said, looking ashamed. "I kept quiet back then. Didn't want to get in the middle of something messy. But once I heard she was suing you, trying to ruin your name, well, I couldn't sleep on it anymore." I nodded slowly, still flipping through the photos. "Why now?" She shrugged. "Because you deserve the truth. And because nobody else seems to be telling it." For a minute I couldn't speak. No courtroom, no lawyer, no money on the line. Just a stranger who decided to take my side without asking for a damn thing. "Thank you," I said, voice low. She patted my arm. "Do what you need to do with them. I've already called that lawyer of yours. Carla, right? She knows who I am. I'll testify." She turned and walked back to the car, moving slow but steady. Didn't look back. Just drove off like she'd come to deliver the mail. I stood there a long time, envelope still in my hands. Then my phone buzzed. "Carla." I answered. "We're ready," she said. "We've got Micah's docs, we've confirmed your signature was forged, and now we've got a third-party witness with visual proof of the affair. I can bury her lawyer with this." I sat down hard on the porch steps. "That it? That enough?" "It is if you're willing to stop hiding. But I'll be straight with you, Dave, once we file, it's not private anymore. This gets loud. Depositions, press, your daughters. Everything's gonna hit the fan." I looked over at the truck. The duffel bag still sat on the passenger seat. Maps folded on the dash. Gas tank full. Oregon was 8 hours away. "You want to run?" she asked. "Run. But if you're staying, we start tomorrow." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked down the steps, past the truck, and back into the shed. Picked up my hammer. Didn't pack a damn thing. I was sanding down a window frame when I heard Hank's truck pull up. Old Chevy with a bad muffler, you could hear it coming from a half-mile out. He parked close and killed the engine. Didn't honk, didn't yell. Just climbed out slow, holding something metal in both hands. I met him at the bottom of the porch steps. "Got something for you," he said. His voice was gruffer than usual. He held out a dented old lockbox. Looked like it had been sitting in the back of a closet since Reagan was in office. I took it. "What is it?" "Open it." I carried it up to the porch table, popped the latch and lifted the lid. Inside, folders, envelopes, photos, newspaper clippings, handwritten notes in that clean, blocky handwriting of his. I pulled one out. It was a statement from a guy named Jerry Phelps. Ran the hardware store back in Salina. Swore he'd seen Sonia and Craig coming in together every Saturday for almost a year. Another file had scanned property records. My name whited out, Craig's typed in. A separate note in Hank's handwriting. Filed 6 weeks before Dave left. Fraudulent date. I looked up. "You've had this for a while." I grabbed another envelope, more pictures. One of Sonia and Craig at the county fair, sharing a funnel cake. Another of them at a church picnic. Nothing dramatic, but close enough to kill any just friends story. "You've been collecting this?" I asked. "Yup. Why?" Hank sat down across from me, slow and heavy like his bones hurt. Told you once I left a cheating wife back in the 70s, he said. Didn't fight it, just packed up and vanished. Spent 40 years wishing I'd made her explain herself. He nodded at the box. Didn't want you to die wondering too. I couldn't speak for a second. He leaned forward. I saw your face that first week. Hell, you weren't crazy. You were gutted. And I figured if you ever needed to tell your side, you'd need more than just your word. So I made calls, kept tabs. Folks talk when you ask nice and don't act like a cop. I stared down at the pile of evidence in front of me. It was more than anything Carla had. More than Micah or Carol brought. And Hank had done it without a single request. There's timelines in there, he said. Dates, receipts, cross-referenced with her social media. I got 3 people who'll testify they knew she and Craig were a thing before you left. He paused. You can still run. This doesn't have to be your war. But if you're gonna fight, now you won't be defenseless. I closed the lid and took a deep breath. My hands were shaking just a little. You okay? He asked. No, I said. But I'm getting there. I pulled out my phone and called Carla. She picked up fast. What's up? I've got more. What kind of more? A damn arsenal. She let out a low whistle. Send it. No, I said. I'm bringing it in myself. She didn't say anything for a second. You're in this now? I'm in it. I hung up, looked over at Hank. Appreciate it, I said. He just gave me that same slow nod he gave the day Sonia rolled in with her hotshot lawyer. Then he stood, walked back to his truck, and drove off without another word. I watched the dust trail rise behind him. Then I walked inside, grabbed the keys, and started loading the truck. Theo held up a dusty plastic bin and asked, Is this all of it? I shook my head. There's more under the workbench, I think. She used to keep the fake flowers and candles in an old milk crate. My mom's garage smelled like paint thinner and cedar chips. Half the boxes in here hadn't been touched since before the divorce, if you could even call it that. No one ever said the word out loud. He just left. I was digging behind an old shelf when I saw the jacket. Blue denim, torn elbow, buttons missing. I pulled it out, holding it up. My chest clenched. I knew it instantly. Dad's. I hadn't seen it in years, but that coat was practically part of him. He wore it every fall, stained from 30 years of sawdust, engine grease, and campfire smoke. I was maybe 12 the last time I borrowed it. Snuck out wearing it like armor after a fight with Mom. Theo stepped over. That his? Yeah, I said quietly. Then I heard her voice. What the hell are you doing with that? We both turned. Mom was standing in the doorway, hands on her hips, eyes locked on the jacket like it was a live grenade. I found it in the corner, I said. Why was it buried under old Christmas lights? Her voice went sharp. Because it's trash. That man walked out on us. Throw it away. I didn't move. Lindsay, I said, throw it out. Theo looked at me, waiting. I folded the jacket over my arm and started walking past her. She blocked the door. You're not taking that into my house. I'm 30, I snapped. And I don't live here. We stared each other down for a second. Then I pushed past her and walked straight out to the car. Back at the apartment, I hung the jacket over the chair and tried to forget about it. But around midnight, when Theo had gone to bed, I picked it up again. It still smelled faintly like smoke. Like him. I slipped it on, hands deep in the pockets. That's when I felt something. Crinkled paper jammed way inside the left lining. I pulled it out. Old thermal paper, yellowed and torn. But the header was clear. Prairie View Diagnostics, paternity analysis, non-invasive prenatal test. Dated 6 weeks before Dad disappeared. I sat down hard at the kitchen table, reading the fine print. The fetus tested did not match the alleged father's DNA. And under that, patient, Sonia Riker. I felt like the air got sucked out of the room. I remembered the tension in the house that fall. The slammed doors. The whisper fights behind the laundry room wall. I thought they were just growing apart. I thought Dad had given up. I was wrong. I folded the receipt carefully and slid it back into the pocket. Jacket still wrapped tight around me. Then I grabbed my phone and opened Mom's contact. I didn't even think it through. I hit call. She picked up fast. Lindsay, I found something, I said. In the jacket. Silence. It's a test, Mom. A paternity test. She didn't answer. Was he the father? I asked. She still didn't speak. Mom, I'm not doing this with you tonight, she said, voice flat. I need to know the truth. You know what happened. He left. No. You told us what happened. I believed you. I backed you. I cut him out of my life because you said he abandoned us. But this says you knew that kid wasn't his before he left. She let out a long breath. Lindsay, I made choices to protect this family. No. You made choices to protect yourself. You don't understand how hard things were. What I went through. Then explain it. But she didn't. Just hung up. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I scrolled down to the last number I never thought I'd use again. Dad. I hadn't texted him in 5 years. Not since the week he vanished. I typed, I found something in your old jacket. 3 hours passed. Then came the reply. That test proved the child wasn't mine. Your mother knew before I left. I set the phone down, heart pounding. Everything cracked open in that moment. And none of it felt like home anymore. Theo was driving, hands tight on the wheel. I stared out the window, the Idaho mountains getting taller and closer with every mile. My stomach had been twisting for hours, and the silence in the car didn't help. I hadn't told him everything. Just enough. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded when I said, We're going to see my dad. We pulled into the clearing around noon. Cabin was smaller than I pictured. Tools leaned against the sidewall. Firewood stacked clean by the porch. It looked lived in. Steady. Real. Dad stepped out onto the porch before we even parked. His beard was grayer than I remembered, and he stood a little slower than he used to. But the second our eyes locked, I knew it was him. Same shoulders. Same quiet stare. I got out of the car. Didn't say anything right away. He nodded once. Hi, Linz. I blinked. You still call me that. Always did. Theo stayed back by the truck while I followed Dad inside. He poured 2 mugs of coffee, handed me one, then sat across the table. Why didn't you fight for us? I asked. He didn't flinch. I did. No, you left. No letters, no calls, no explanations. Just gone. I left because I thought that's what your mother wanted. And because I knew I couldn't stay without making everything worse. I clenched the mug tight in both hands. Worse how? He took a slow breath. She was pregnant. I found the test in her purse. Confronted her. She admitted it wasn't mine. That it was Craig's. And that she wasn't stopping. My throat went dry. She said I'd changed. That I was cold. That I made her feel alone. And maybe that was true. I worked too much. I didn't talk enough. But I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. Why didn't you take the test to the girls? To me? We would have listened. He shook his head. Your mother made it clear. She didn't want me contacting either of you. Said it would confuse you. Hurt you. And honestly, I believed her. I thought if I stayed away, you could have a normal life without me dragging you through the dirt. I blinked fast. So you thought disappearing was protecting us? I thought it was surviving. For all of us. I stood, heart racing. You should have told me. I was an adult, Dad. I had the right to know. Before he could answer, tires crunched outside. He glanced at me. That'll be your sister. I turned to the door. Wait, Aaron. He nodded. She walked in like she owned the place. Brown hair in a messy braid. Hoodie and boots still dusted from the road. Her eyes landed on me. Lindsay, what the hell are you doing here? I asked. She shrugged. I always knew where he was. My jaw dropped. You knew. I never bought Mom's story. She never made sense. I started calling him a year after he left. And you didn't tell me? Would you have listened? She snapped. You believed everything she said like it was gospel. You turned him into the villain so fast. You didn't even stop to ask what actually happened. I trusted Mom. I yelled. She was the one who stayed. She raised us. You think I didn't miss him? You didn't act like it. I felt my voice crack. I was angry. I didn't understand. Because no one told me the damn truth. Aaron's eyes softened. I tried. You weren't ready. The room went quiet. Just the sound of Dad setting his mug down on the table. I sank into the chair, shoulders shaking. I feel like such an idiot. Dad stood, crossed the room, and placed a hand on my back. You're not. You were lied to. I hated you, I whispered. I blamed you for everything. I know, he said gently. I don't know how to fix this. He didn't answer right away. Then, you just showed up. That's a start. Aaron sat next to me. You're here now. That's what matters. I nodded, tears slipping down my cheeks. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet shame. Dad didn't say much after that. He didn't have to. But for the first time in years, we were in the same room. No lies, no lawyers. Just three people picking up the wreckage and trying to make sense of what was left. The silver Lexus pulled in at noon sharp. Same city plates. Same lawyer, Curtis Renner, stepping out in a charcoal suit like the dirt offended him. Sonia climbed out slower, her hair done, pearl earrings flashing in the sun. She didn't spot the girls right away. Not until she followed Curtis onto the porch and saw them sitting on either side of me. She stopped cold. Lindsay. Aaron. Her voice cracked. What are you doing here? Lindsay stood. You didn't think I'd miss this, did you? Aaron didn't say anything, just crossed her arms and stared. Curtis gave a polite nod. Shall we begin? Carla stepped out from inside, calm and coiled like a loaded spring. She had folders in hand and fire in her eyes. We'll keep this efficient, Carla said. Mr. Rikers received your demands. Here's our response. She dropped a thick binder on the table, opened it. First, the sale of the business. Here's the original notarized agreement. Hand-signed. Signature comparison proves your version was forged. She flipped to the next section. Second, financial theft. Bank records show you transferred over $68,000 from Mr. Riker's retirement account directly to a joint account under your name and Craig Carter's. 6 days after filing a missing persons report. Sonia's jaw clenched. Carla continued, cool and relentless. Third, the police report. You claimed Mr. Riker was mentally unstable and suicidal. But witness statements, including business partners and community members, contradict that narrative. Curtis cut in. That's not proof of perjury. Carla shot him a look. But it is enough for a criminal investigation. Want me to keep going? Curtis didn't answer. Lindsay stepped forward. She held out the crumpled paternity receipt in a clear plastic sleeve. This is dated 6 weeks before Dad left, she said. It proves the baby wasn't his. You knew that. And you let us believe he abandoned us anyway. Sonia's eyes flicked from the paper to her daughters. You don't understand. Try us, Aaron snapped. Explain how lying for 5 years helps your case. Sonia looked to me, like I'd bail her out. I didn't say a word. She turned back to the girls. I was protecting you. No, Lindsay said. You were protecting you. You spun it to make yourself the victim and made us hate our own father. I didn't want to lose you. You lost us the second you started lying. Curtis held up a hand. If we could return to the point. No need, Carla said, shutting the binder. We've already filed intent to countersue. The DA's office has been notified. Unless your client wants to settle privately right now, we move to public filings by the end of the week. Sonia's lips moved, but no sound came out. From behind the Lexus, Craig Carter stepped into view. Cheap blazer, loafers scuffed at the toe. He looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I stood and walked down the steps toward him. You got something to say? I asked. He shook his head, backing up a step. Good. Then take your sorry ass off my land and don't ever come near my daughters again. He didn't argue, just turned and walked straight back to the car. Curtis turned to Sonia. I need to speak to you. Alone. They stepped aside for maybe a minute. When they came back, he looked like he'd swallowed a tack. I can't represent you, he said, removing his glasses. You withheld material evidence. Consider this my formal withdrawal. He handed her a slim folder and walked straight to his car without another word. Sonia looked around like she was seeing the porch for the first time. Carla held out a single page. You sign this, you agree to pay restitution, drop all legal claims, and stay out of Mr. Riker's life permanently. No contact, no appeals. Sonia looked at her daughters. Neither one moved. Her hands trembled as she took the pen. She signed. The silence that followed was loud. She set the pen down, turned to Lindsay. I'm still your mother. Lindsay looked her in the eye. And I'm still your daughter. But I don't know who the hell you are anymore. Sonia's chin quivered. She turned and walked back to the car, heels crunching in the gravel. Didn't look back. The second the Lexus pulled away, Erin reached over and grabbed my hand. Lindsay sat next to me. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. For months later, I stood at the stove, basting a half-sized turkey while snow started dusting the pine trees outside. Erin was chopping sweet potatoes at the counter, already in a flannel apron like she lived here full-time, which honestly she almost did. She'd started showing up every other weekend after everything blew open. Fixed a drawer one visit, recaulked the tub the next. Kept finding reasons to come back. Lindsay came up a little slower, still guarded but steadier every time. She didn't rush the healing, didn't pretend it wasn't hard, but she kept coming. That day, she brought a pie and Theo, who I finally got to shake hands with like a father should. Hank arrived just before 3, hauling in a 6-pack and a tin of cornbread. His daughter, Marla, followed close behind. Sharp like him, same eyes, same noble shit energy. She hadn't talked to him in 20 years. Said the mess with our family made her look twice at her own. We ate at the big table by the wood stove. Simple stuff. Turkey, potatoes, stuffing, pie. Nobody gave a speech. We just passed plates and shared seconds. After dinner, we moved out to the porch. Cold air, thick coffee, and the kind of silence that didn't need to be filled. There were 3 chairs now. I'd built 2 new ones out of pine and painted them to match mine. One for each of my girls. Lindsay sat beside me, knees pulled up, hands wrapped around her mug. She looked out at the trees for a while before finally speaking. Can I ask something? Always, I said. She glanced over. Can I start calling you Dad again? My throat clenched so hard I couldn't speak. I just nodded once. That was enough for her. She leaned her head gently against my shoulder, like she used to when she was little and the power went out during thunderstorms. We sat like that, the 3 of us watching the snow fall in the dark. No yelling, no pretending, no more hiding. It wasn't perfect, not even close, but it was real, and we were finally whole.